going on, everybody? So, even the rain here in Savannah is not going to keep us out. So,
nope.
I got tired of sitting in the RV. It's been raining the last couple days. So, but we have to get out and do something because I can't take it.
Why not? What a beautiful day. Perfect for the beach.
Always got to keep your eyes open on what you're going to find in some random store. You got the See Ya Later. Doomsday Lemonade. The Trump Tonic. Or if you need some pick me up, you got a Bob Ross energy drink. There's Barbie's Every Night is Girls Night.
Oh my goodness.
So many other ones.
Bikini bottom cooler.
Oh yeah, there's the bikini bottom cooler. Boy.
I don't know how you feel about that.
So the first museum we're at is the
American Prohibition Museum.
And unlike most museums, they let you use flash, photography, and video in here. They don't care.
Yep.
And I heard, rumor has it, this ends in a speakeasy.
That is true.
So, got something to look forward to at the end.
Yes, yes. They already gave us the drink menu.
Ooh. Turn around and show you what the lobby looks like. An old-timey video going on the side.
Welcome to the American Prohibition Museum, guys. There are some umbrella bags here if you want to touch those ponchos in there. That's up to you.
Once again, photos, videos, more encouraged. But with that, y'all, welcome to the American Prohibition Museum. Where we stand right now is a small slice of life of America in 1918, a nation at war. Yes, against the Kaiser over in Germany, but here in the States as well. An army of drunks led by King Alcohol. His recruiters, the barman, his garrisons, the saloon, his arsenal, the whiskey warehouses and distilleries across our nation. And it is a fight against him led by the women of the Women's Christian Temperance Union, the White Ribbon Army. They fight not just against booze, but for their rights as American citizens, equal to men, for the responsibility of rearing up the next generation of children, and of course for the men who are and are not present in their lives. As we go through, the bulk of the museum is going to be up on that second floor, but on our way there, someone we're hard-pressed to ignore. The Reverend Billy Sunday, an evangelical preacher, went across the nation warning the dangers of alcohol and the pros of prohibition. And in exchange for his temperate prohibitionist views, when he stops here in Savannah in the summer of 19, he was ran straight out of town by an armed mob. You can see some of the kind words he says of our city as we go on by him. But with that, y'all, if you step along with me and my folks on my private guided tour. So you made our way up, but it's here in diorama and in portrait, a scene played out across America. Not just during our national prohibition, but as early as states go dry in like Kansas in 1881. Illicit stores of whiskey, gin, and rum, found, confiscated, unless accused of hoarding for themselves, smashed in broad daylight. But it's behind me that another scene plays out. In Boston 26, a bunch of kids coming out with tin cans, ladles, cups, and pans, trying to get themselves a nice cheeky swig. This is emblematic of America, 7 years into our vow of national temperance. And if this is the best we are able to offer, it beggars the question, how bad were things before? And it's through there is a very different world than the bars and speakeasies you'll find in Savannah today. We first must address who is able to go there. So, gentlemen, we're having a good night. Ladies, go somewhere else. Find a gin annex. Find a wine room. Frankly, we'd rather you not drink at all. But should you must, there are medicines to be had for your hysteria at home. Feel free to lean up on the bar, your call. But as you step into the room, there will be somebody hard-pressed to ignore. Standing just shy 6 feet, roughly 200 odd pounds, a farm girl her entire life, Carrie A. Nation. This is a name she gathers from her second marriage, because her first marriage ends in tragedy. A drunk of a doctor returning from Lincoln and Liberty, he proposes to Carrie, and despite her family's protests and his family's protests, that when he drinks he's a mean treat, when he's a mean treat they drink, they wed anyways. And Carrie quick soon to learn that the only time his hands aren't on a bottle is when his hands are on her. She separates from this man, but returns to her estranged husband's side when he is on his deathbed, bottle in hand. She prays for his very soul as he passes. She's going to remarry to a new man, the Reverend David Nish, a temperate man of the Methodist faith. They settle in Kansas, the first state to have gone dry and stayed dry in our nation in 1881. She marches with the Women's Christian Temperance Union. She wears the white ribbon. She fights for suffrage, for the rights of the rights of the children, and winning their ultimate battle, a statewide legal suasion of prohibition. This is as best as they can hope for our national law. And all it's done is had saloons like these operate in broad daylight across the state, a law completely unenforced. While she is a champion of the dries, the wets, they elect champions of their own. And it's going to be something like those fellers you see over there, up on the portraits. Men who I am certain you do not know their faces, but by God do you know their names, by God have you drank their beers. Because these are the beer barons. We have Gustav Pax, we have Joseph Schlitz, and if I must be the one to inform you, Schlitz went under this week, well, I must apologize the bad news. We have, of course, the king of them all though, Adolphus Busch.
Times was hard back then. They had to do it. They had to make moonshine to make ends meet. This is the way of life. This is just a family heritage and a tradition. Then, Prohibition started. Prohibition says you can't make alcohol no way, legal or illegal. All the city saloons closed, all the business, you cannot buy, drink, sell alcohol nowhere. Well, guess what? That was great for the moonshiner. Now business is booming here. That took off like crazy. I've been working this field day and night. You see that bourbon ash right there? It's about ready to run. I'm gonna put it in that steel right there, get that fire just right. The stump will go to thump. The creek water comes down right there and hits that copper coal. She'll come out of there 120 proof. Well, that's looking good right there, but I tell you what, if you get caught with that 120 proof, you'll pay a fine. If you get caught making that moonshine with that steel right there, you go to jail.
All around, as you acquire booze, illegally or illegally, if you don't know where it's coming from, you're probably not going to have a good time. So if you want the best stuff, the safest stuff, you got to go to the best distributor of them all. And that's going to be Uncle Sam. Because alcohol, frankly, is far too valuable, industrially, medically, or religiously, to outright prohibit. Now, industrially, it's going to be mouthwashes. Colognes, perfumes. And today, much like back then, they've been tampered with well before the national prohibition for you not to drink, for the simple merit of you're not supposed to do that in the first place. Well, medically, there is indeed some very valid uses, as tinctures, as a dissolver, as an anesthetic in a pinch. But that's not what you're here for. You're here because you have arthritis, you have rheumatism, rickets, dyspepsia, the Spanish flu, and you find a doctor willing to lend you an ear if y'all turn right there, where you can acquire bars of whiskeys like you see on display, up to an entire liter, as long as you acquire the proper prescription. Now, of course, get it filled out at Walgreens, wherever it might suit you, and of course, remember one thing: are prescriptions cheap? Are they cheap now? Are they cheap then? And so, if you can't afford your prescription, well, you can go where we are all equal, in front of the eyes of the Lord. See, particularly in the Catholic and the Hebrew faith. See, if your father reports that his congregation is a few parishioners larger than it actually is, there's going to be some more of that wine distributed to him under supervision. And those bottles, well, they got to go to use. We're going to give communion out so many times, so do some good deeds. Maybe some donations. Get chummy with your father. And in time, maybe some of those bottles of the blood of Christ make it way on home with you. If you want to get making your own brew, well, turn your eye back to that case right there. You can see some of the options we have. Now, beer, I'm not going to waste our time on beer too much. Buy barley for bread, buy hops for tea, you can do the math from there. Wine's a different story. See, if you're in California, you got good options. If you're in Georgia, and I shall hear none the contrary, you have good grapes as well. But what if you're a Youper, or you're out in Arizona? Tough luck then. or get that yellow and purple block you see in the center there sent to your doorstep. It is going to be a grape block. Dried husks of skin, pulp, and juices ready to be reconstituted in 5 gallons of water. And upon research, let me step on out. This is going to come with instructions of what to do, pardon me y'all, and of course instructions of what not to do as well. So, add to 5 gallons of water, add a pinch of baking soda. Let it sit for a few hours, you've got your grape juice. But don't forget the baking soda. Do not add 5 cups of sugar. Do not add a 1/5 of yeast. And then from there, do not let it sit 3 to 4 weeks. As a legal notice, you would have produced wine, which is illegal. So please discard this beverage. South, east, or west, whoever you are, if there is money to be made, there is organized crime to follow. And so with that, it's why we've got boys like Bugsy Moran, Al Capone, Jack McGurn here. They're emblematic of the crime rings that pop up across America. These men, we know they're making booze. We know they're importing it. We know they're smuggling and gambling. And we also know one thing. They're pretty freaking cool. I think they're awesome. They wear nice suits. They drive nice cars. If I'm getting booze at one of these guys' joints, the worst thing it's gonna do to me is give me a hangover. And I certainly know we ain't gonna be raided anytime soon. Heck, if I'm lucky, I'll get to have a glance at that $1,000 bill and just sent away to the back room. All around, these guys, the sweethearts of America. They infiltrate the games our kids play. They are the newspapers and the rags that we read about. They're in the novels and the great American works. Heck, folks, the best known bootlegger is a man who never even existed. That Jay Gatsby, well, it says right there in the text. Gotta work with these men. And in a more stance of reality, well, don't ask where the Kennedys got their money from, shall we? Overall, bootlegging is going to represent hundreds of millions of dollars. Hundreds of millions of dollars that you and I are never going to see. A speakeasy. Now I'm going to be honest, the word's been around for a couple tens of years. It's been around well before national prohibition. But the new speakeasy is going to be the place. It beats those old blind tigers. It beats passing a flask around at a football game. And when you come to these speakeasies, they're not hard to find. Because for every one saloon, 3 of these bad boys have popped up. And with it, well, come as you are. Because whoever arrives, I ain't saying nothing about who arrives. Ladies, show up with your man. Ladies, come unchaperoned. If I complain about you, you complain about me. And we both go to jail. So I ain't saying nothing. If we're all breaking the law, we might as well get rid of those old social mores as well. And so when you come here, well, I'm dressed like an old man. Those boys down there in Kansas City, they've got the nice fancy work. 2-button, double-breasted, gone to these big old bowlers, the tall toppers. A flat cap will do you plenty. Ladies, you get even better. Gone away are the bustles, the cravats, the stick pins and starches. Put on a slimming dress. Do some stockings, makeup, cigarettes in hand, ready to dance by yourself. Like is not the Charleston. See, this is the part where most folks will show you how to do the Charleston, and I'll be honest, I was dreading this the entire time. See, I'm a musician. I play those instruments up there. I can strum a mean 2-step. I can't dance, but I can give it a shot. See, the Charleston is not that hard. This is showboating. It really is kind of just I'm gonna do that again. It really is just a simple 2-step, y'all. You kind of just go for it, and with it, try it in time and not lose your step, and kick your legs out here and there. That was not good at all. They're gonna destroy me. But, listen, I woo the girls through sound. Y'all wanna woo the girls through looks, so dress up nice, get your flasks out, and remember, since we're all doing this illegally, we can't rely upon the cops. We gotta rely upon each other. So you can't just waltz into a speaking. You need to know a guy who knows a guy. And while John Barleycorn is dead and gone, his new friend has arisen, a boy named Gus. See, Gus has a house in every single city. Gus has tens of thousands of houses in New York City alone. And wherever you go, if you can find Gus, John, Jim, whoever the right member is, you'll be able to get into these speakies. So y'all, step along with me. You seem a trustworthy lot. I reckon I can get us in. And if we can all kind of squeeze in here, packed like sardines, not that we haven't been the entire time, huh? See, my folks, if you go to a speakeasy and you ask for beer, rightfully so, they're gonna go, what are you, a cop? So play it coy, play it cool, and remember Gus sent you. So who's your good actor? Very well, sir, you have to do.
Shit.
So remember, give that buzzer a ring, and Gus sent you.
Gus sent me.
What do you want?
Have some confidence, man.
Who sent you?
Gus.
Tell him Gus.
I just
Gus
did.
sent you.
I did, for God's sakes.
Yeah. All right. Come on.
Well, he's as skeptical as you as you're skeptical of him. But come along, y'all, come along. I reckon I owe you all some drinks. I have a mule for Lori and a gin Ricky for Justin. Mule. Next up, we've all got drinks in hand. So, something changed. See, as Americans hang out in these speakeasies, be the fancy ones up in the Bronx, small garages in the South, just a flask passed around in a football game, we're all to come to a realization. A lot more of us drink than don't drink, huh? A lot more of us break the law than follow it. And heck, if the saloon was so bad, is the speakeasy any better? Because the saloon, I know who owns it. I know who to bring to court. I at least have an idea where the booze comes from. A speakeasy, I try and bring boss to court, he's probably just gonna shoot me. Questions are best left unasked about where that gin's coming from. And overall, at least with the speakeasy, at least with the saloon, we can regulate it. This is the argument made by the women who brought in Prohibition. Because, boy howdy, we can look back and say we told you so, but truly there was an idea that maybe the American people would respect this law's spirit. And that's plainly just not true. So they push for repeal of Prohibition. They find a new champion as well, with Franklin Delano Roosevelt, making not arguments of morality and justice, but of economy. Tens of millions of dollars go towards undergrounds. Hundreds of thousands of jobs tied up in a bunk law. And so, if no one's following it, why lose it? This depression coming on, well, we can use every penny we can get. So with that, in his inaugural year, as part of this National Recovery Act, the 21st Amendment is sent forth, ratified, and enacted. And so, y'all, it's 1933, on three. Let's give a nice hearty cheers to Prohibition's end. 1, 2, 3. Cheers! So drink up, y'all. Do enjoy. But know that while national prohibition is defeated, states are going to hold out. Georgia to 38, Mississippi till 66. And of course, counties and towns to 8, well, they're going to continue as well. Heck, you come join us tomorrow, I'm going to give you mocktails, because those blue laws say you'd be better off in church than in here, you know? But with that, y'all, thank you so much for your patience today as we ran around like a pinball machine.
What'd you think?
I liked it. I thought that was fun.
Yeah.
What about you?
Thought he did a good job of doing the narration and all the stories and information. And
It was fun.
the drinks were
Drinks were a bit tart.
a little stiff.
Yeah.
But
Like a lot.
anyway, so we did the Prohibition Museum. Now we need to go to the Pirate Museum.
All right. It's still raining, so more museums.
All right, we'll find something else to do inside.
All right.